Hello, everyone, and a huge welcome to our workshop where skills go to work. What employers are looking for in 2026. If the job market feels like it's moving a mile a minute, or you're wondering how AI actually affects your career, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to be pulling back the curtains on 2026. We'll show you how AI is changing jobs, share the top skills you need right now, and give you a simple plan to start upskilling today. Get ready to feel prepped to stand out no matter where you are in your career journey. We are currently recording this webinar to ensure accessibility for all participants. You can enable closed captioning via your browser. We recommend using Google Chrome, where you can click on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner, click on settings, and then accessibility. You may refer to the screenshot in the presentation, referencing a breakdown of instructions on how to access closed captioning on different browsers in the content section to your right, or reach out to one of our esteemed, fabulous Career Circle employees in the tech support booth in the lobby to assist you. All the good stuff we talked about today is right over on the content tab. We'll also email everything out, resources, and the recording after the event. And seriously, you definitely want to stick around because our amazing panelist has a wealth of knowledge to share. So you don't want to miss anything. You want to wait until the end. Before we get started with introductions, here's a QR code for our survey. Grab your phone, scan it, and take our super quick survey. Everyone who responds gets entered into a raffle to win a Career Circle tote bag. We'll contact the winner next week, Thursday, February the 5th. If you can't get to it now, no sweat. It'll be in the follow-up email. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into introductions. My name is Brittany. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I currently work as a learning and development specialist here for Career Circle. I have braided black natural hairstyle going on. I am wearing clear, wide-brimmed cat-eyed glasses and a smile. And now I'd like to pass it over to Daniel to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brittany. My name is Daniel Pugh. My pronouns are he, him, and I currently work at Career Circle as a senior technical recruiter with the delivery team. I have brown hair, brown eyes. I wear these black frame glasses, and I'm wearing a red, nice little long sleeve here. And I'm currently actually sitting in Richmond, Virginia. It's very chilly.
Amazing, Daniel. So, with that, I'm going to hand it right back over to you so that you can start speaking to them about the 2026 landscape.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany. And thank you, everyone here today as well for participating. Hope everyone's having a very safe and beautiful Thursday. I know it's very chilly right now across the US, but very happy to have you here today. So, the first slide that we're going to be talking about is the 2026 job landscape, right? I want to take that moment to level with what the job market really looks like right now, ideally. And there's a lot of noise going on right now, but underneath that, there's a lot of massive opportunities. So the key is understanding what's actually happening so you can position yourself ahead of everyone else, right? And even though the job market feels very different, there's a lot here that works in your favor. So that's what we're going to be discussing in that landscape. So first, one of the biggest things I want to talk about is AI. That's a big thing right now. You can't really talk about work in 2026 without addressing AI. So a few years ago, a lot of companies were in this frenzy, right, trying to adopt AI because it was trendy. Today, we're kind of past that hype. We've hit what I call the sorry, AI pragmatism, which is employers no longer asking, how do we use AI? They're asking, how does this tool actually drive return on investment? So that's where we're going to transition into is a lot of those talking points overall. So the biggest thing you see right here, the first one's going to be the low, higher, high quality focus. So companies right now are seeking low, higher, high quality. So what this means is that the roles they are hiring for are high impact, high visibility, and often come with better growth potential. Instead of broad, high volume hiring waves, organizations are really being very strategic, and every hire has to move the needle. That might sound intimidating, but it actually works in your favor if you're someone who can articulate real contributions and show that value you bring to the table, especially through skills. So they're not looking for perfect resumes right now. Employers aren't. They're looking for doers, problem solvers, people who can hit the ground running. So they learn quickly, they adapt to changing environments. if you can clearly communicate how your skills drive outcomes, how you save time, you reduce waste, improve processes, or support customer experiences, you become a top tier candidate in a market like this. So, nearly 40% of core skills have changed in the past 5 years. This is the part that surprises a lot of people, especially in the job market. Over the last 5 years, nearly 40% of core skills have evolved. That means almost half of what employers care about today is different from what they've looked for even a few years ago. So this might seem a little bit intimidating, but I can kind of flip that for you. This is actually really good news. Why? Because it means your career is not defined by your past roles. You're not limited by the job titles you've held before. So skills are now the currency, and skills can be learned, stacked, they can be showcased. This shift gives every job seeker, and that includes career changers, military veterans, returners, early career candidates, people with non traditional paths, a real shot at thriving in this market. So, with that being said, finally, I want to talk about that flat growth, high demand. So, overall, hiring projections for 2026 show a slight growth, looking at about up to 1.6%. So nothing super dramatic, but inside that, we're seeing something powerful. A demand for specific talent has never been higher, right? And so we're looking at roles tied to AI assisted workflows, data analytics, customer success, cybersecurity, and even like healthcare support overall. So with that being said, now that we've grounded ourselves in what that 2026 landscape looks like, I want to shift into the skills conversation, specifically the hard skills that can help you execute at a high level in this new market, and that technical skills that are now the foundation for career success. So you can see here that balance of technical versus human skills. We're not talking about deep coding, like advanced engineering or becoming a full stack developer. What we're talking about is essentially digital literacy, right? These are skills that every professional needs in order to thrive in an enabled work environment. And this list isn't exhaustive. It's just a snapshot of examples that consistently show up across industries. So the biggest thing is going to be starting with AI collaboration, because this is the most universal technical skill of 2026. Employers, they're not looking for AI experts. What they're targeting for is for people who can work with AI the same way we work with emails, with spreadsheets, with search engines. Think of AI collaboration and prompt engineering as that next step of evolution for like computer literacy. So this includes things like knowing how to ask AI the right questions, using prompt tasks to structure tasks, reviewing and improving AI generated output, comparing your own judgment with AI speed. So that's going to be a big part of that AI collaboration, that prompt engineering. And next, on top of that, you're going to see is going to be data storytelling. And again, it's not like data science or SQL, not analytics engineering. Data storytelling is the ability to really take that information, intercept it, interpret it, and communicate the meaning behind it. So you might pull insights from a dashboard, as an example, or a CRM report, maybe an applicant tracking system, patient record if you're within hospice care, customer survey, sales metrics, you name it, right? But the real skill is explaining that, right? What happened, why it happened, what the business should do next. That's going to be encompassing that data storytelling. And then finally, on top of that, is going to be that cybersecurity hygiene. So this is one that affects every single employee, because when we work in cloud systems, data platforms, AI tools, companies are more exposed to risks than ever right now. So employers need people who can recognize suspicious emails, avoid risky data handling behaviors, understanding basic password or authentication best practices. That's going to be that true cybersecurity hygiene that pretty much everyone's going to need in every type of workplace. And as powerful as technical skills are, we really want to balance it out with another real determinator in 2026, and that's going to help people grow. It's going to help them get higher in their roles, and it's the human skill side. These are capabilities that AI simply can't replicate. Okay, and that's what holds teams, culture, and innovation in a company together. So skills such as analytical thinking and problem solving, This is a soft skill that amplifies everything we already talked about on the technical side. So AI can give you information, but it can't critically think for you, right? So employers want people who can interpret AI output and then apply human reasoning, such as breaking down complex problems, understanding root causes, comparing those options. Another human skill is emotional intelligence and empathy, which becomes even more valuable in high tech workplaces. So teams can now span time zones, cultures, disciplines. AI handles the transactional parts of work, but humans handle the collaboration, the conflict resolution, the creativity, the care behind it. So it's important because across leadership roles, support roles, customer facing opportunities, I mean, you name it, right? Emotional intelligence is often the deciding factor between two equally qualified candidates for the same opportunity. And then of course, big thing is going to be last and foremost is going to be resilience and cognitive ability. So the job market right now is evolving quickly, and people who bounce back from setbacks, they adapt quickly, they stay open to learning, are really the ones that thrive. So resilience is about stability, not giving up when the roles change, when technologies shift, or when industries make a pivot. So employers are looking for they aren't looking for perfection, if that makes any sense. They're looking for people who can grow, they can evolve, they can stay solution oriented. These are individuals who become anchors within their team and overall, and that's what we're seeing as that trend. Excuse me. So now that we have that perfect balance between like technical versus human skills and what that looks like over here, what I really want to talk about in this particular slide is going to be that paper ceiling that's tearing down. That skills right now are going to happen over degrees. So I think that's a shift that's incredibly empowering for so many people. The old paper ceiling is finally getting tore down. That ceiling was the invisible barrier that was said that, hey, there's no degree, no career, right? Well, that's getting torn to shreds. So in 2026, we see that employers care far more about what you can do than what's printed on a diploma. So skills are kind of taking that center stage. And that's going to get broken down into three different formats. So right now, first one we're seeing is the rise of micro credentials. We're in a moment where stackable credentials and digital badges are becoming very mainstream. Okay. And fast, and that's the reasoning for that is because one, they validate specific skills employers actually need, things like AI literacy, cybersecurity basics, project coordination, data visualization, and customer success tools. And the reasoning for that is because they are stackable, right? They build over time. So one badge turns into a pathway, pathways turn into job readiness, and that's a huge selling point. Is how stackable they are, and they also reduce the time and financial barriers for roles, right? People can upskill in weeks or months, not years, right? Needed for like diplomas. And what this singles is simple but transformative. Many companies are shifting from a degree mindset to skill-based mindset overall. So that demonstrated ability really matters more. Um, Another major change you'll see here on the second one is how interviews are conducted, especially with evidence based recruiting. Employers have shifted away from the old conversational style interview, the tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume. Today, it's much more evidence based. So, hiring managers now want to see, can you actually perform the tasks this job requires? Instead of talking theoretically, they're asking situation and skills based tasks, like show me how you would fix this data set, walk me through how you would respond to this customer scenario. So maybe here's an AI tool, how would you use it to solve the problem? This shift benefits people who have real skills, like even if they haven't gained them through a traditional education, it evens that playing field. So if you can demonstrate the skill, you're taken as a very serious candidate, especially in that evidence-based recruiting. um, Lastly, on here, big thing you'll see is that portfolio shift. Um, that's the third biggest change we see in 2026. Showing your work is just as important as your resume, sometimes even more, to be honest. A strong portfolio can include things like projects you've completed, labs or simulations from a training program, um, UX or design work, even case studies, AI assisted workflows you've maybe built already, customer service examples, process improvements. Yeah, even screenshots of dashboards or performance metrics that are sanitized for privacy, right? That can be a huge portfolio that you have. And the reasoning for that is because these portfolios, they remove the guesswork. If that makes any sense, they let employers see their abilities in action, not just your job titles. So the key takeaway that I would have from here is that your current skills and your ability to learn and learn those new credentials are your most valuable asset in that job market here today. And you probably saw my cat behind me as well, so they get very jealous when they hear me talk. So hopefully that didn't distract anyone too bad. But with that being said, now that we're done talking about paper sealing, I kind of want to go over and talk about how to future proof your career here today. Um, to truly stay relevant and thrive in this skills first economy, you really have to adapt into that growth mindset and treat learning as a business imperative. So, as you'll see here, there are 5 actionable steps that we want to take to future proof your career starting today. Um, the first thing you need is a to build a skills profile. So kind of think of it as like tanking inventory. You can't manage um, what you don't measure, right? So every 6 months, audit yourself. Ask yourself, what skills do I currently have? Think of them, which of them are becoming obsolete? Which skills does your industry require now? Where do you need to upskill or reskill? This honest, recurring evaluation really becomes your personal skills profile. So it's your roadmap, and when you keep it updated, you're not caught off guard by market shifts, if that makes any sense. So um, with that being said, once you build that skills profile, your second piece is going to be embracing what I call the 80/20 rule. And this rule will help your career. Spend 80% of the time on your core role and dedicating the remaining 20% to experimenting with new AI tools relevant to your field. This is how you stay ahead of that curve. It's where you experiment with new AI tools, explore different workflows, test automation, familiarize yourself with systems, or even try new technologies, which is a big deal. This is how a lot of people stay ahead of that curve, especially in the 2026 market, because they don't want to wait for their employer to tell them like what to learn next. Like they build upon that habit now. So definitely want to implement that today. Now, once you have that 80/20 rule, then we want to go into networking in the human era. Because we're living in an era right now where inboxes are flooded with AI generated messages and automated outreach, right? So, because of that, genuine human connection is absolutely more valuable than it ever has been. So, this means that prioritizing those real conversations, building authentic relationships, engaging meaningfully, not just mass generated, following up thoughtfully, adding value before asking it, your relationships will amplify your opportunities. So, in a world of automation, being human is now a very competitive advantage. Um, on top of that, we want to use the AI plus formula. This is probably one of the most powerful takeaways. Your value is no longer just your experience; it's how you augment that experience, with technology overall. So, as you can see on here, there's going to be a formula in mind that we're going to use for this. So, you want to take your core domain expertise, and that's what you already do well, and then you add in your AI fluency. So, and that equals a high market value. So, as an example, a great marketer who masters AI automation doesn't just do their job better, they become an AI growth lead, which is a high value role. If you're an operations professional who maybe has learned workflow automation, well, now you've took that leveled up step, and now you're into AI driven operations analyst paths, which is a big deal. And then finally, the fifth step here is going to be mastering that situational interview prep. To be ready for the reality of hiring, employers are moving away from the past focus, tell me about a time you did this type interview, those types of questions that are typically asked. They are now giving you a live prompt and asking you to solve problems in real time, if that makes any sense. So practice this and treat every interview as a mini consulting challenge, right? Um, Practice it, build mock scenarios, use AI to help generate prompts and rehearse live problem solving. If you can confidently walk employers through how you think, how you solve problems, and how you use tools, you instantly stand out from the competition. So by adapting really all five of these steps, uh, and stop reacting to the job market and start proactively shaping your career's long-term success, you're going to future-proof your success for any career that you want to get into. Yeah, and then so from here, now that we've kind of covered all the skills that you really need to stay hyper competitive, let's talk about where skills actually are, and more importantly, kind of where they're going in the future. So you can see on the left hand side here, we have jobs in 2026. Right hand side is going to be the job evolution of the future, common jobs, key skills, and then emerging technologies. Um, and the big thing is that the jobs of the future are not brand new jobs. They've just evolved versions of the jobs you would already know here today, and I would already know myself. So right now, what we want to do is we're going to look at common jobs column, which is going to be on the left hand side here. These roles, healthcare professionals, teachers, logistics specialists, creative professionals, they've been essential for decades, right? They're not disappearing, they're not going anywhere. But in a skills first AI enabled economy, these roles are just simply evolving. So, for example, a teacher today might a big teacher today might become an ed tech learning designer tomorrow, or maybe a creative professional might become a generative content strategist. So that's evolving for the future. So when you look at the emerging columns or emerging jobs column here on the right, generative AI engineers, AI product managers, data scientists, renewable energy tech, these aren't mysteriously new careers. They're just simply those fundamental roles that are layered with new skills technologies, if that makes any sense. Um, but with that being said, you're also going to move to the skills section here. So the same principle applies that we talked about common jobs is going to apply in regards to key skills. So what's interesting is that the most timeless of human skills we have, such as communication, adaptability, problem solving, behavioral understanding, are still at the center of career success. But the big change we have is these foundational skills are now layered with new expertise. So some examples of that could be advanced data analytics, ethical decision making for AI, human centered design, AI literacy. So we're not throwing away our old skills, we're just simply updating them for the future. So this is why employers aren't just asking, hey, can you communicate? What they're really asking is, can you communicate insights from data? So they're asking, hey, can you make ethical decisions when using AI? It's the same skill set, just elevated. um, and then finally, at the bottom here, I want to emphasize that this slide is basically a strategic snapshot, like not just an extensive and full list. The entire landscape of jobs and skills, emerging technologies like green technologies, is in a state of rapid evolution. So it's up to you to treat learning as a business imperative and continuously evolve your own skills profile to kind of match that shift for the future. But yeah, so from there, um, I really want to talk more about going into your 2026 action plan, and make sure that you can start off with your action plan now to make it more practical overall. So the big thing I want to go into is making sure that you can make an action plan now, the skills first way, and you can start doing that immediately. So the big thing I want to talk about is going to be that skill identity shift. So traditionally, people introduce themselves by saying, I have a degree in X, right? But employers in 2026, they're no longer making hiring decisions based on the degree alone. They're looking for proof of skills, like actual verifiable capabilities tied to modern work. So your new identity needs to sound like this. It needs to sound like, I'm certified in AI ethics. I'm certified in prompt engineering. I have credentials in cybersecurity hygiene or workflow automation. Um, and that goes into stackable credentials as well. So stackable credentials, which is by far your fastest career accelerator right now in the market, is going to be those stackable credentials. So it's the fastest way by far to help bridge that gap between where you are today, where the opportunity is. They're short, they're targeted, they're buildable, and really the best part about it, to be honest with you, is we have a resource, a featured resource here on the right-hand side is for IBM SkillsBuild. IBM SkillsBuild, they offer free industry recognized digital badges for that, and they cover a wide variety of resources such as AI fundamentals, mastering the art of prompt writing, how to create a great resume. There's over 1,000 courses overall, so I would definitely recommend using that as a resource. Like I said, stackable is the biggest thing about that, and it's right now to build on that current hot role and job market that we have here. And these badges, they verify that exact technical and professional skills that employers are looking for right now. It's not just a list a skill, you need to be able to prove it with a credential, and that's exactly what IBM skills build is designed to do overall. So definitely want to make sure we have that as a resource. But yeah, so that's going to be your 2026 action plan. The skills first way, best way to go about it. And then on here, we're going to have taking your free IBM skills courses. It's probably a good question you might ask, saying, hey, Daniel, where do I find IBM? How do I access these courses? There's a whole bunch. There's over 1,000 on the entire IBM skills page. There's a bunch that are recommended here as well, whether that's building and crafting your professional image online. They also have resume writing with generative AI, working in the digital space, professional skills. And there's also a QR code here on the right-hand side to enroll now. And the link to enroll is in the content tab and will be shared in our post-event email as well. So that way you don't miss out on it. But yeah, that'll be available from here. Um, and then if you have any questions in regards to those IBM certificates, because I know there can be quite many, I would definitely recommend to please email support@careercircle.com. And that'll also be put in the chat as well. I'll repeat, that is support@careercircle.com. And we'll be able to kind of elaborate more on some of those, some of that information if you have any questions. But yeah, so with that being said, I would love to go ahead and pass it back to my wonderful coworker, Brittany.
Wonderful, Daniel. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And let me just say, y'all, skills based or skills build through IBM is incredibly invaluable. I love how you brought up the courses and things that are associated with it. Now, before we get started with this QA, we did see some questions come through the chat, and I want to emphasize that you all have the amazing opportunity to get the subject area knowledge of none other than Daniel. And so with that being said, we have 30 minutes for QA, which we hardly ever get to have. And so now is the time for you to get all of your burning questions answered, okay? So let's get started with the first one. Question number one, what would be some good skills to upskill for this year to get ahead? Daniel, what are your thoughts on that?
So I said it one more time. Sorry.
No worries. What would be some good skills to upskill for this year to get ahead?
Oh, gotcha. Great, great question. Yeah, so through IBM, it's a great question overall. Obviously, AI is going to be very impactful right now. So definitely things like AI prompt writing, resume assistance with AI, that's going to be a fantastic one to dive into. Another one would be anything that's tied directly to that particular skill path. So, for example, if you're going into IT support, any skill that's going to be related to customer service, it's going to be fantastic. If there's any other particular skill that is listed in regards to maybe data analytics, anything for SQL is going to be fantastic. Just data entry control, anything like that. It does tailor based on what type of career path you're going into overall. But IBM is going to be a huge resource for that. Again, having over 1,000 courses, and you can really go into what those skills might look like. From a more of a general perspective, I can definitely say the biggest skill that's going to be important is that human element, understanding how to explain and express what your skill sets are from projects you've worked on, understanding how you can collaborate with that company, and being able to have that data literacy and that data storytelling, just like we talked about previously. That hygiene is important, and that basically that human level of skill, that analytical thinking and problem solving that other candidates might not be able to replace.
Absolutely, absolutely, positively. And let me just say, there are a number of really, really, really exceptional course options that are available through IBM Skills Build. I believe that my colleague is going to be linking some of the top 10 in the chat. So be checking that chat for those links. I think that they could be very beneficial as you're looking to upskill this year. Okay, next question. My recent applications have been turned down due to not having a college computer science degree. How do you recommend getting around this when applying, and what are some good certifications? I see how this connects. Talk to me, Daniel. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, you said it was a what type of application degree was it by chance?
It was a computer science degree.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Okay. So yeah, if I'm understanding it correctly, you applied to a role and then was declined because of not having this. I just want to make sure I know the question correctly.
Yes, and what I can do is, and forgive me if I'm speaking too fast, I'll
Yeah.
slow it down. My recent applications have been
Mhm.
turned down due to not having a college computer science degree. How do you recommend getting around this when applying, and what are some good certifications?
Oh, gotcha. Great question. Yeah, big thing I would recommend is to make sure you can articulate the different projects you've worked on that might be required within that as well. So even though you might not have that particular degree, there's going to be a list of requirements that are needed within that job description. So when you review that job description, you can see exactly what they're targeting within that, even outside of education. And if you worked on any projects that are related to that, or even upskilling certificates that can showcase the work that you do to prove that it is viable for the opportunity, you want to be able to articulate that in the resume. And then, even for a cover letter as well, you can also explain how it's a fit for the opportunity and then proceed forward from there. Now, in terms of other credentials or skills that I would recommend that can really bridge that gap, um, it depends exactly on what the role is necessarily, right? There's a lot of other ones such as IBM overall, and even like CompTIA and Google as well for IT support. It depends on exactly what the position is. So I'd have to go a little bit more in depth in regards to that resume and also that particular opportunity. But the biggest thing I would recommend is to really find out and kind of highlight or test, go through the actual job description, and you can see what roles would be a fit or what your experiences and your projects you've worked on that would articulate why that you have the ability to fill that opportunity.
Excellent, excellent response. Thank you so much, Daniel. Next question is, when you see strong portfolios in 2026, what's the one signal that tells you the candidate can operate safely inside real workflows and not just produce outputs?
Ooh, that's a great question. Ooh, can you say it for me one more time? Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely, no problem. When you see strong portfolios in
Mhm.
2026, what's the one signal that tells you the candidate can operate safely inside real workflows and not just produce outputs?
Mm, that is a great question, actually. Um, hmm. I'm trying to think what really stands out for that. That is a great question that I might not have an immediate answer for, unfortunately. Um, it's really tailored specific, to be quite honest. I'm trying to. I'd have to come back and answer that separately, to be quite honest. It's a really good question.
Absolutely. Okay, no worries. I'll go to the next question. My recent applications have been Ah, okay, that looks like a duplicate. As job titles lag behind how work is actually evolving, how do you recommend candidates translate similarly named roles with very different scopes, especially in evidence-based or situational interviews?
Oh, great question. So, AI is obviously going to be huge for that as well, and we see that in a lot of marketplaces, especially in regards to even veterans as well that have transitioned from different workspaces within the government or from DoD, and they want to transition into other positions within the civilian sector. There's going to be a lot of different job titles that can relate to that overall. AI is definitely hugely beneficial for that, being able to break down, hey, this is what this can transition into, this is what that would look like, especially for other employers. I would definitely recommend using that for that literacy piece. So that way you can really get a good understanding of, hey, this is what that can transition into, whether that's from a growth perspective or so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The next question that I have is, if you have a certificate in Google data analytics or have skills build badges credentials, can you say that you are certified?
Oh, great question. So it was, if you have a certificate in Google Data Analytics or have IBM SkillsBuild badges, can you say that you're certified? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great question. So here's how I'd break it down. Google Data Analytics is an industry recognized certificate. So you can say I am certified in Google Data Analytics, or I hold the Google Data Analytics certificate. So that's the correct way and the fully accepted by employers. Um, for like IBM SkillsBuild as well, those are verified digital badges. And yes, these are certificates, but the best practice is to phrase them clearly and professional. So you can say, I hold IBM SkillsBuild certificates in XYZ, or I'm certified in AI fundamentals through IBM SkillsBuild, or I hold an IBM SkillsBuild badge in prompt engineering. So, and the reason why it matters is because employers today care about those verified skills. So whether it's Google certificate or or IBM badge, these certificates prove your capabilities, especially in a skills first hiring market. So yes, you can confidently present yourself as certified. Just make sure that the phrasing reflects the specific badge or the certificate you've earned, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And so I just wanted to go back to that previous question that we were going to follow up on because I got
Yes.
some feedback that I'd love to be able to share.
Yeah.
And so the question was, when you see strong portfolios in 2026, what's the one signal that tells you the candidate can operate safely inside real workflows and not just produce outputs? And so the
Yep.
feedback that I received was a documented, repeatable workflow that shows that the candidate can make decisions, handle feedback, and manage risk, not just create
Oh,
a final product. And so, what this looks like in terms of a portfolio is a short write up describing the workflow used, screenshots or notes showing iterations, not just the polished final product, clear labeling of tools, data sources, and decision points, a reflection section. Here's what I would improve next time. And then evidence of collaboration or handoff readiness. So documentation, naming conventions, file organizations, etc. And so I hope that that was beneficial and helpful for the individual that asked that particular question before.
yeah.
Okay, so the next question that I have is, how can someone in a non-data heavy role like HR or marketing use data storytelling to add value to their team?
Ooh. Gotcha. Sorry, can you slow down and ask me one more time? I apologize for that.
Absolutely, no worries. Okay, how can someone in a non-data heavy role like HR or marketing use data storytelling to add value to their team?
Ooh, gotcha. Um, hmm. Let me see here. Hmm. I'm trying to make a really good specific way to be able to articulate it correctly. Um, hmm. Is there a way I could have it written down to be able to read it correctly? Because I'm not understanding the question when being heard correct, or when listening to it.
Absolutely. Okay, let me. Okay. So the question was highlighted.
Oh
Are you able
yes.
to see it?
Oh yes. Here we go. It's how can someone in a non-data heavy role like HR or marketing use storytelling to add value to their team? Okay, absolutely. Sorry about that. I just wasn't understanding it correctly. Okay, so um, the thing is, data storytelling is it's a very powerful tool for people in non-data heavy roles, and because it shows that you can turn everyday information into decisions. Like, you don't have to be a data analyst, right? So you just need to connect dots in a way that your team can act upon. So a good way of translating that data would be into like meaningful insights. So HR, for example, might say our time to hire dropped, let's say 12%, after we adjusted our screening workflow. So here's what's working. Marketing might say maybe engagement is higher, is highest on Tuesdays, but let's shift our content schedule accordingly. So this makes you a strategic partner, not just like a task um, executioner. So a big thing we want to do is communicate why behind trends. So good storytelling explains what happened, why it happened, what the team should do next. So a good example would be, we'll use HR again because we just used that a second ago. Exit survey data shows maybe a spike in workload concerns. So we should reevaluate resource allocation. So that's a good example. Or we'll even try marketing again. Marketing could be, this campaign underperforms because traffic was mobile heavy and our mobile layout wasn't optimized. Well, now you're influencing those decisions, right? So that's going to be that data aspect of it. So the biggest thing is to like highlight those outcomes, not just reports. So data storytelling would turn numbers into narratives that can move that level of business. Not we got 400 applications, but instead it's we sourced 40% more qualified applicants maybe from from these roles. And so it's not it's not just highlighting outcomes, but making those reports, understanding how it impacts the business, so it shows you understand impact, not just raw information. If that makes any sense, and you can use visualization to drive that clarity. It's like you don't need fancy tools like maybe a data analyst would have. Even a simple snapshot of like the surveying tools or dashboard works that can make that insight like pretty obvious, right? Whether it's comparing pipelines or it's showing campaign performance or a table showing customer feedback trends, those visuals will speed up decision making. So, kind of the bottom line behind it would be like data storytelling isn't about being in a data job. It's about adding by helping your team understand what that data means and what action to take next. And you can interpret information and turn it into a clear, actionable narrative, and instantly become that's indispensable for that team. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to go to the very next question that we
Yeah.
have on that section. And that question I highlighted as well. What's a good way to represent my skills on my resume or even LinkedIn?
Ooh, great question. Great question. Okay, and that's always a good question too. Is hey, obviously the resume is good to go. We have our profile maximized. How do we also make LinkedIn or even Indeed a more profitable, not profitable, but more enticing reason is to um, have the way to show and represent those skills. So it's going to come down to formatting. We'll talk about the resume section first, but a good way of representing your skills on the resume is going to be the formatting. Now, there's two different types. Most common type is going to be a chronological format and a functional format. The best way is going to be a chronological sense. And then once you have it in a chronological sense, the best way would be to have it displayed right underneath your professional summary. So most resumes will have a professional summary. Below that's going to be your skill summary. So we want to use that to be able to articulate the skills that you have, whether it's data storytelling, um, cybersecurity hygiene, or just skills in general that you might have from a technical basis, whether that's IT support, data analytics. And then below that is going to be where you have either your education, which is most relevant, or your work experience, which might be more relevant than that education. So from a resume standpoint, that's kind of what we want to do. And you also want to add in all your certificates. So in your education piece, if you have certificates you've gained to have skills in, you want to add that in there as well. Now, as far as LinkedIn goes, we really want to turn those skills into searchable keywords. So LinkedIn search engines, they prioritize things like skills, certificates, keywords in your headline, the about section. So updating your headline is definitely very important. This makes it to where you can become more discoverable by modern roles. And so you want to make sure your skills are listed in there. So for example, if you're going into, we'll use HR as another example. So if you have skills within HR, you want to put HR coordinator and then data driven decision making, um, maybe AI fluent. That way it's more discoverable for modern roles. Um, and when it comes to that, listing your skills will help prove them obviously on LinkedIn. So you definitely want to add that overall. And it's the same concept with your resume on LinkedIn. Anytime you have a new certificate or skill that you've acquired, you want to put that in your profile in the skills section. Hopefully that was able to help for that.
Absolutely. The next question
Mhm.
is at the top, bolded. Where can we find great projects to add to our portfolio in regards to cloud and AI engineering?
Ooh, great question. Great question. I see it here. So it's where can we find great projects to add to our portfolio in regards to cloud and AI engineering? Great question. Okay. Um, hmm. I'm trying to think of the best way to articulate great projects to add to our portfolio in regards to cloud and AI engineering. 1 second. Mhm. Okay. Hmm. Great way to add projects to add to our portfolios in regards to cloud engineering and AI. Mm, It's a great question. Give me a little bit of time to think on that, and then I want to come back to that question right after the next question
Okay.
because I want to be able to articulate it correctly. But it's a great question. I appreciate that.
Okay, okay. The next question is, as a veteran, I have strong human skills like resilience, leadership, and problem solving. How would you recommend I start to make my military experience relevant for this transition into the civilian world?
Gotcha. Great questions. Yeah. So as a veteran, strong human skills like resilience, leadership, problem solving, which makes complete sense, especially being in the military. And thank you for your service as well. I'm also a veteran as well, a couple years in the Air Force. So just want to say thank you so much for your service. And the question was, how would you recommend I start to make my military experience relevant for this transition to the civilian world? Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great question. So the big thing I would recommend, and you might have already gone through it right now, but definitely tap the transition assistance program is definitely something I would highly recommend using in regards to understanding what some of these skills you might already have, and how to articulate that in the resume. But in terms of how to make that military experience relevant for the transition civilian world is your MOS job code. That's going to be very, very important. Understanding what skills you have right now that can transition into those civilian jobs can be incredibly beneficial. I wish I knew about that in terms of what my previous AFSC was that can transfer over. And that you might not know that off the top of your head. That's absolutely okay. Biggest thing I would recommend is that there's an MOS code translator you can use, and you can figure out what skills you have acquired from there, especially from a leadership perspective. Maybe if you were a flight chief, maybe you were a squadron leader. There's going to have human skill elements in there that are significant that can be used and transferred over to maybe project management, project support, project coordination, things of that nature. So I would definitely recommend utilizing that and being able to explain that impact you had as a leader, especially in units. Because I know a lot of units for the military, whether it's in the Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, you name it, you'll have a lot of impactful, translatable data that you've acquired that you can showcase, saying, hey, our combat readiness improved by 20% during this because of XYZ circumstances. And so you definitely want to be able to articulate that, especially when speaking to other recruiters or opportunity owners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we are back at
Yep.
the previous question. And that previous question was, where can we find great projects to add to our portfolio in regards to cloud and AI engineering?
Yep. Gotcha. It's a great question. So let me think here.
And I
It,
just
it, it,
quickly went through and saw some project ideas. I don't know if you would like for me to share some of those,
yeah, of course. Please.
Daniel.
Absolutely. Please.
And so a few AI engineering build spaces, it says replete AI. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Y'all in the chat, if I'm saying it wrong, let me know. But it's REPLIT AI. And so it's a building full stack AI apps. Then there's Hugging Face Spaces, so deploying models with Gradio or Streamlit. And then there is GitHub Code Spaces. So I don't know if I'm saying it right, but GITHUB code spaces, and that's cloud dev environments for AI projects. And then a few of those projects that stand out, project ideas that stand out for 2026, a serverless AI API deployed on AWS Lambda or Azure functions, a retrieval augmented generation chatbot using vector databases, a cloud-based data pipeline that ingests, transforms, and visualizes real data, and containerized ML model deployed with Kubernetes or Kubernetes. Y'all, this is new language for me, okay? Don't laugh. Don't laugh too hard if I'm saying it wrong. A monitoring dashboard for an AI system that's latency, drift, cost, and then a multi-cloud deployment showing you can work across providers. And so those were some of the suggestions that were made. Don't know if you wanted to add that to that, Daniel, but that was
No.
something that I
Yeah.
found.
No, thank you so much for the support as well. No, that makes complete sense. I would definitely recommend using those as resources as well. And there might be some more intermediate ones as well. Maybe you want to dive into. Maybe that's Hugging Face, or even like Cloud Resume Challenge. I think that's another one that's available as well. But thank you for the support there with that. That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for. You have done an incredible job. Thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you all so much
Yeah.
for joining us for today's workshop. I hope you all are leaving here feeling fully empowered to navigate the changing landscape of 2026 and take proactive steps in your upskilling journey. Thank you so much. Please stay until the end. I have some important information. So, one last thing before we go. As Daniel stated, we partnered with IBM SkillsBuild, where you'll have free access to over 1,000, I repeat, 1000 professional development courses. The link is in the content tab and will be in your follow up email. Next steps, that same follow up email will have the recording, all resources, and the quick survey, which will enter you for a chance to win that Career Circle tote bag, y'all. You don't want to miss out on that opportunity, all right? Career Circle swag is all the rage. All right. So we want to also have you all follow us on social media so you don't miss our February 12th resume workshop. Once again, thank you so much for being the best part of Career Circle's community. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great one. Bye bye.